registering to participate in the speech competition, because some of your friends, they could have gone through that pamphlet of the competition and they would have thought, speech competition, okay, इसके लिए मुझे prepare करना पड़ता है, पढ़ना पड़ता है, then I have to, write down the speech, practice it so many times, then actually on the D-Day, I have to do a speech. Oh my God, that's so tough, that's so difficult. I'm not that great a speaker. And so they give up, they move on to some other activity. While all of you here, you've participated, you've registered, and you've made up your mind that no, I'm going to put in all that effort and I'm going to give a great speech. So for that, I'm congratulating all of you, and I want all of you to give a big round of applause for your own self. Good job. Okay, so I'm going to be sharing the screen, and I've created a small presentation wherein I'll be taking you through on what are all the things that you could do to make an effective speech. Okay, shall we go ahead with that? All right. Chetan, doctor, I want you to allow me to share my screen. Hello, Chetan,
yes,
sir.
Yes, ma'am. Just wait for 1 minute.
Yeah, okay. So it's going to be a little bit engaging. I know it's difficult with, doing it over screen, but I would still want all of you to engage with me, to participate. Every time I ask you a question, you might either type your replies to it, or you might show me with a thumbs up or a thumbs down whenever appropriate. Is that okay? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Great.
Ma'am, you can share the screen now.
Yeah, doing it. Okay. Is my screen visible to all of you? Are you able to see
yes,
what makes a great speech?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and am I visible too?
Just a second, ma'am. You are not visible.
How do I do that, doctor? How do I make myself visible and also the presentation?
Yes, ma'am. Now you are visible.
Okay. Okay. So what makes a great speech? What do you think? Type and let me know what makes a great speech, or maybe just say something and tell me what makes a great speech. Unmute yourself and tell me what do you think, in your opinion, makes for a good speech.
How you present the speech, your presentation skills.
Correct. Excellent. Your communication skills. What else?
Content.
Content. Very good. Yes. What else?
Body movements, hand gestures.
Body language. Excellent. We'll be looking at body language shortly too. What else? What
Voice
makes
modulation.
End of the speech.
What is it?
End of the speech.
End of the speech. That excellent. Whoever said that, good for you. Your conclusions are very important.
Voice modulation.
Voice modulation, the tonal voice, excellent, great. I think
Confidence.
a lot of confidence.
Our
Very
body
true.
language.
Only if you are a confident person can you give a good speech. Very good, very right. So let's see what all makes a good speech. Okay, there are two kinds of speaking. One is prepared speeches and one is spontaneously speaking. Spontaneous speaking is what we will be majorly doing in our lives when you talk to your parents, when you talk to your friends, when you talk to your teachers. Any time in your life when you're speaking without preparing for it is spontaneous speaking. But today we will be looking at prepared speeches. So if you had attended the previous session, Aniket sir would have told you that you have to read a lot of books, you have to collect information about the topic that you want to talk about, correct? And then you write all of that down, you prepare, practice several times, and then you give a speech, right? Yes, they are prepared speeches, but when it comes to the actual speech, it should not appear as if it has been memorized, as if you're just reproducing what you have by-hearted. Instead, it should appear as if you're speaking from the heart, as if, that will only happen if you passionately believe in what you're about to speak. if you really believe, yes, what I'm about to share with people is something that I very much believe in, then that passion will come out to the audience as well, and the audience will be able to, get impacted by your speech. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
How to structure your speech? See, a lot of times what happens when you start speaking, you suddenly your mind goes blank. You are saying something and then you absolutely don't know what else you have to say, what next you have to say. Correct? That happens to a lot of people, right? So to one way to avoid that would be to structure your speech. What do I mean by a structure? Structure is something where you divide your entire speech into different parts or different sections. Okay, somebody is raising their hand. Is it? Okay, so structure is where you divide your entire speech into different segments, into smaller parts, like your introduction. So what does an introduction do? An introduction is where you introduce the audience to what you're about to say. Okay, so the subject to us is Gandhi. Gandhi is such an ocean of a subject. He's as vast as the seas, skies and the seas. So what is it about Gandhi that you want to talk about? So you might start off your introduction saying, I'm going to talk to all of you about Gandhi's Dandi March, maybe for example. So you kind of give an idea to the audience on what topic with regards to Gandhi that you are going to be talking about. Okay, so introduction doesn't mean that you introduce yourself. At least in speech competitions like this, where you've given a particular amount of time to speak, I think it's not necessary that you have to waste your time here by talking about yourselves. My name, I come from this particular place, I study in this particular standard, I come from this college or school. That is not necessary to the audience. And after like maybe 2-3 contestants, as audience, we will forget which place you came from or which school you belong to. That's not necessary and important for us. So what I mean by introduction is you have to introduce your topic to the audience. And first impressions, what are they? First impressions are going to, once a speaker has spoken, then the moderator is going to say, okay, very well done. Now we are going to the next speaker. So when that is happening, the audience for some time, they will stop listening and they'll take a break. They'll get distracted here and there. And then when you're about to start speaking, you have to garner all that, attention from the audience back to yourselves. Only then will they listen to your speech better. So those are the first impressions that you have to create by grabbing the attention. Maybe you start off with a great statistics, or you talk about a thoughtful quote, or you tell them a poem, or you ask them a stimulating question, just like I did. I said, what do you think makes for an effective speech? And you all got interested, right? So you start off with something like that, that will grab the attention of the listener to you as part of your introduction, and then you move on to the speech. All right. So that will be your first part of the speech, introduction. And introductions are really, really important so that you establish that rapport with the audience. The next part, which is the most important part, which is the body of the speech. So this is where you will actually be talking about this will be the major part of your speech. With regards to body, you again have to divide this body into different parts. So only then, see, your entire speech will not be just a big chunk of words, but they will be actually divided into different segments. So this is what you should be doing. Like Aniket sir said, you read a lot, you collect information about the topic that you're planning to talk about, you collect your own thoughts. And then when you actually sit down to write your speech, you ensure that you divide that into different parts. So for instance, I talked about the Dandi March. So you could say, what is Dandi March? The details of Dandi March. When did it happen? From where to where it happened? Who all participated? What was the date when it happened? Where did they stay as part of the march? All those details about the march could be the second part. The third could be, what was the immediate consequence of Dandi March? What happened immediately after Dandi March happened? 4, what was the long-term impact of Dandi March in the entire freedom struggle of India? That could be 1. 5, what did you learn from the Dandi March, or what did you learn from Gandhi ji with regards to Dandi March? That could be point number 5. So this way, you have divided your entire speech, the body of the speech, into different small parts, correct? What is Dandi March? When did Dandi March happen? Details about the Dandi March. What was the immediate consequence about Dandi March? What was the long-term impact? And what did you learn from Dandi March? So 5 things. So what happens when you divide your body of the speech into such small parts? It's very, lot of times you forget certain things. That doesn't happen. Or even if you forget, so you started talking about the details of Dandi March, you said it happened between this date to this date, and then you forgot, your mind got blank. You didn't know what to say next. What can you do? You can simply leave this and move on to the next part. What was the consequence of Dandi March? Okay, so if you divide your speech, if you structure it in such a way that you've divided into small parts, it's very easy for your brain to remember just the major parts. And even when you're practicing it, you just have to practice all these parts alone. So I'll come to the next thing. So the next is speech plan card, or SPC. So all these 5 points that I told you with regards to Dandi March as the topic, what do? You write all these 5 points in a small bit of paper, okay, or a small card. And when you're practicing, and this card should be ready at least 2 days before your actual speech. So the 2 days, what you're supposed to be doing, you have the card ready, the speech plan card ready, SPC card ready. So you place this card somewhere where you can always keep seeing it, like you place it on your mirror, or you place it in your table, or you put it in the back of the door. So you keep seeing this card every now and then. So these 5 points are etched in your mind. You never forget it, okay? And when you're practicing, what are you supposed to do? You're not supposed to keep a full essay of your speech and keep reading it over and over again. That is one way of practicing. But the better way would be to create a SPC, have it in front of you. The first point, okay, you keep just seeing these 5 points again and again, and every time you see it, okay, first, what should I be saying? What are all the points that I want to say inside this first part? You will recollect. Then the second part, third part, fourth part, fifth part. Okay, so when you do that, are you guys with me? Give me a thumbs up so I know. Okay, good. Take it. All right. So this is how you create a speech plan card, and you ensure that your entire speech is divided into small parts. And when you're practicing it, you're looking at the speech plan card and you practice it with that. And it's completely okay for you, even when you're doing your speech, to have the speech plan card along with you. So for me now, my PPT is a speech plan card. I don't have a sheet of paper with me. Instead, I have the PPT, which I can look to. So I've divided into what makes for a good speech, what is the structure of the speech, what should be the verbal message be like, non-verbal, how it should be, things like that. I put it into different slides. So I look at that occasionally, and then I talk to you. All right. So the same way, you can have the speech plan card along with you, even when you're delivering the speech. And you can look at that. Okay, first point is done. Second point, you would see even great orators carry a sheet of paper like this along with them when they're delivering their speech. It's completely okay. This is much, much, much better than, having somebody along with you in the room to prompt you the next point. That gets very distracting even to the audience. So don't do that. Instead, if you want, have the speech plan card along with you. But let me tell you this, it's just 5 points and 2 days of practice. It's there in your mind. You don't even need to have the speech plan card along with you during the speech, excuse me. So that's about the body of the speech. Okay, then comes the conclusion. Like somebody said, conclusions are very, very, very important part of your speech. Even if you run out of time, a lot of people, as soon as the moderator says time's up, they just abruptly stop it. Don't do that. Okay. Definitely, if time's up, just stop what you're saying with regards to the body, come to the conclusion, conclude it, and then end your speech. Because conclusions, just like how I said, introductions give first impressions, conclusions give lasting impressions. So in my opinion, I always give more weightage to conclusion than even introduction, because conclusions are what you're going to leave your audience with. The last thing that the audience will remember about you is your conclusion, correct? So you definitely have to conclude it in a beautiful way. And when you're doing all of this, one point with regards to body is you have all these points that I said on the speech plan card. You have to ensure that you move from one point to another in a very seamless way. Okay, this is not a written examination where you put headings and then below you write something. That's not that, right? So you might in your mind say, okay, I have spoken about what is Dandi March. Now I'm coming to details of Dandi March. But you don't say that. Or if you want to even say it, you can say it in this way. You can say, okay, now coming to the larger impact of Dandi March, and then talk about it. Okay. But you have to ensure that that move from introduction to body happens very seamlessly, very smoothly. And from body to conclusion, it again happens very, just like a flowing river. There are no barricades and then you start afresh. It's not like that. Okay. The audience should not be even able to make out when you move from body to conclusion. But conclusions are a great way in which you tell the audience that, I'm coming to the end of the segment now. I'm going to, maybe in a couple of minutes, I'm going to end my speech. So thereby your speech doesn't appear to be abrupt, or it's not shocking to the audience. All right. Certain people might also use words like lastly, in conclusion, in summary. I would like to say this. Okay, that is also another good way of concluding, where you're telling the audience that, guys, I'm going to end my speech now. All right. And an important thing that most great leaders use as part of their conclusion is a call for action. What does it mean? Call for action. It means that you want the audience to do something with your speech. See, as audience, all of you are now listening to me speak, correct? So why are you listening? What is it that I want to leave my audience with as part of my today's session? I want to educate you on some things that I know with regards to public speaking, correct? Or I want to influence you so that it influences your speaking skills, correct? So you first have to decide, how do you want to leave your audience? Do you want to leave them educated? Do you want to inform them? Or do you want to inspire them with Gandhi? Or do you want to influence them so that they go ahead and do something? So maybe I could say, I feel, after I've spoken all about Dandi March, I could say, in my opinion, I feel Gandhi was a very intelligent politician, and that is something that we leaders will have to take from him. As a leader, we have to lead from the front. We have to be simple, and we have to use intelligent agenda when we are working with our team. So these are some things that you will agree with me, that if then you will listen to this and then you will think, yes, I also want to be a good leader at work. So let me follow the examples of Gandhi and let me strive to be a good leader in my life as well. Correct? So that is the call of action that you want the audience to take away from the speech. All right. So this is the way you have to structure your speech. Let me repeat it once again. Introduction, body, conclusion. And SPC is your speech plan card that you have to get ready. That's going to have just points about how you're dividing your entire speech into different segments. All right. Moving ahead. How should your actual speech be? So what are the words that you're going to be telling? The actual speech, the content of the speech. How should that be? Let's see that. Number one, it has to be credible. What do I mean by credible? Credible means you can believe that it's trustworthy. So if I say something like I said, I think Gandhi is a very intelligent person. He was an intelligent person. Why do I say that? Do I have logic? I should be able to back up what I'm saying with logic and with reason. Only then you will believe what I'm saying, correct? So maybe I should say something like, he chose to fight against the salt tax. Several politicians said, let's not fight against salt. It's nothing. Let's fight against, let's have a protest against the land tax. That's more, having more weightage. But Gandhi said, no, let's fight against, protest against the salt tax. Why? Because land is something that some Indians might have, some Indians might not have. But salt is something that affects everybody, right? Be it rich or poor, we all need salt in our life. That is why Gandhi decided to protest against the salt tax. That shows how intelligent he was. Now, if I say this, you're going to accept what I'm saying, correct? Because I gave reason. I explained you why Gandhi chose salt and not land, correct? Or I could give it with his own words. Gandhi's words. He said, like air and water, salt is also an essential necessity of life. All right. So now I add weightage to the argument that I'm making using Gandhi's own words. So I'm adding weightage. You're trusting me better. You believe in me better because I'm giving you some logic, I'm giving you some reason, and I'm also backing that with some facts. Or I can say something like, Gandhi brought the world attention, the world media to what was happening in Gandhi by bringing 3 cinema companies. So 3 cinema companies from Bombay joined along with the entire duration of the march, filming everything that was happening in Dandi, so that these reels were being broadcasted to the entire world. Now, where did I get this information? 3 Bombay cinema companies, I got it from Wikipedia. Okay, and Wikipedia is a trustable website. So if you want to add facts to your speech, that adds weightage to your speech, number 1. Number 2, when you're adding these facts, ensure that they come from trustable places. What are trustable places? Maybe books, maybe words of great men, or you could just, a lot of students these days just go to Google and type whatever they want to know, right? And that Google results will even be fetched from places like blogs. But what are blogs? Blogs are nothing but people's own opinions. They're not facts. Any Tom, Dick, and Harry could just open a blog and write something that he wants to. And if you do a Google search and if you land upon his page, you can't simply accept what he has written and include that in your speech, correct? You have to ensure that you always go for trusted websites, okay? Or you facts cross-check it with 2-3 websites, and all of them say the same thing. They have, references where they pick that information from. Check out all that before you include that in your speech. Thereby, your speech will appear more credible. Audience will believe you better, and they'll trust what you're saying better. Thereby, your speech will have a longer lasting impact on them. Number 2, concise. What does concise mean? Concise means short. Okay, so now we have all been given time limit as to how long your speech should be, correct? If you are a pro at speaking, then even then sometimes this happens to us. When I'm speaking good, I know that I'm making a very effective presentation or an effective speech, and then somebody says time up, time up, time up. What's going to happen? That's going to suddenly make me a little nervous, right? Or I'm going to get distracted with what he's pointing out to me, and I might miss out on what I'm saying, or I might suddenly forget something what I'm saying, correct? So always ensure that you finish your speech within your given time limit. And for this, practice will make, it'll give you a great result. You can, just time your speech while you're practicing, ensure that it is within the 3-minute or the 4-minute time limit that has been provided to you. Or if it's not, or you could do this, you could just cut out some parts of the body part and then come to the conclusion. But always ensuring that you finish nicely within the given time limit boosts up your confidence, or it doesn't, suddenly make you nervous or tensed about, oh my God, what should I say now? I'm running out of time. Or you're suddenly muted because you exceeded the time limit. And then you feel like, I didn't say that last bit where I had saved the best quote that I wanted to say for the last, and I didn't get to say it because I ran out of time. That will not happen. Also ensure that when you're speaking, your speech, see, speech competitions are a place where people test your speaking skills, your communication skills. How well are you able to articulate your thoughts and present it to the audience? And this is definitely not a place to check how great your English is. Okay, so ensure that the language that you use is very simple. You have short sentences and you don't have long, flowery sentences, because that will make it difficult for the audience to understand what you're saying. And if they can't understand, how will you impact them with the speech? Correct? So by concise, I mean ensure that you're well within the time limit, speak in simple words, and keep short sentences. Direct. What do I mean by that? Let me give you an example. I think one must learn from Gandhi on how to be a true leader. Or let's learn from Gandhi on how to be a good leader. Which one is better? The second one, of course, right? Because you're direct, you're not saying, see, never fear to use I, you, we in your speeches. When you do that, when I say, you guys listen to me, you people should do this, we all should learn a lot from Gandhi ji. When I say all this, what am I doing? I'm connecting with the audience, right? And the more I connect with the audience, the more they will listen to me, the more they like my speech. If I say one should do this, one should do that, who is this one person? You and me, of course, correct? So ensure that all your speeches are directly talking to the audience. Unique. What do I mean by unique? Like I said, Gandhi is such a vast topic, correct? So everybody will be talking about non-violence, ahimsa, freedom struggle. So instead of being a very generic content, ensure that you talk about one particular aspect of Gandhiji. It could be his quality, it could be his, what is it that you learn from him? Or, for somebody being from Yavatmal, you could say, talk about even Sevagram and said, I have visited Sevagram several times. And when I think of Bapu, I can only think of Sevagram, and talk about what Sevagram means to you. Or talk about what all happened in Gandhi's life with respect to this particular place alone. Thereby, you will be remembered better by the audience, and what you have got to say will reach to the audience in a better way. And you could be, this is with regards to how you create your content for the speech, being unique in your content. You could even be unique in your delivery. Somebody could just enact and present. Their presentation style could be very unique, or somebody could sing a bit in as part of their speech and be very unique. Or I've heard of a speech in which the participant did a conversation between Arjuna and Krishna. So his entire speech was played out as a conversation between these two people, and that was a speech, and that was very interesting to listen to. So ensure that you have a uniqueness in your speech by doing any of these things, and knowing your audience is going to really, really matter. So who are your audience are going to be? So if I'm going to be dealing with IT employees, then maybe it's okay for me to say things like ASAP, or ASAP is as soon as possible, or let me touch base with him. So these are certain jargons that are known to one sect of people, right? And it might not be known to students, or it might not be known to other different sect of people. So understanding who your audience are, what are the age limits? Like I checked with Dr. Chetan on who the participants were, which groups were coming. I spoke to somebody from group B on asking how many of your friends are participating. Tell me that. So I knew my audience, how many are going to be adults, how many are going to be kids, what are their age groups going to be. So this kind of gives me an idea about who I am dealing with. All right. So always get to know your audience. Okay. This is something for the audience. How much does the spoken word matter in the communication? What do you think? You could just type it out or say it out aloud. As percentage in your communication, how much percentage do you think has spoken word weightage for? What is the weightage? What is the percentage of spoken word, the importance of spoken word in your communication? How much do you think?
60%.
Not more than 7%.
Sorry?
Not more than 10%.
Not more than 10%. Who else?
60%. Myself, ma'am.
60%. So we all have our beautiful written speech ready. How much of percentage do you think that speech has got? You know, the written words or the spoken words have got in your entire speech? Any idea? 60%, less than 10%. Less than 10% was actually correct. You know, only 7% of weightage is given for spoken words. That's very less, isn't it? Yes or no? And we spend all our time writing, you know, preparing and practicing just the spoken words. But if you look at it, if you look at the elements of personal communication, you will find that 38% weightage is given to the voice, the tone of what you're saying, right? And 55%, that's huge. 55% what your bodies are saying. Correct? Yes. I could give you the story of what happened, you know, with Kennedy and Richard Nixon. In US, they have this culture of having a presidential debate before they actually go for elections. Okay, so this has been there for a long time. And in 1960s, there were two presidential candidates, Richard Nixon and JF Kennedy. All right, and this is when televisions were introduced into the households. Before to televisions, we only had radios. All right, so this particular presidential debate, some people watched it on TV and some people listened to the speech on their radios. Okay. After the presidential debate happened, the next day, polls threw out some very interesting results. People who watched the debate between Nixon and Kennedy felt Kennedy was definitely their candidate. Why? Because he came out with, you know, good body language. He was non-shuffling and he made good eye contact with the audience. Whereas people who listened on the radios felt Nixon was better because he gave very clear answers. And you know what happened to the election results? Whom do you think won? It was Kennedy who won. All right. So it doesn't matter. Of course, your content should be good, but how you present that content matters more than what your content is, because that's how we're wired, you know, in our physiology and in our psychology. So it's not only what you say, but also how you say it that's going to matter, and that's going to impact your speeches. So what is your body communicating is more important. So this is something that you're saying, but your entire from head to your toe, what is your body saying? People are more observant on the, you know, non-verbal communication that your body is doing than on the words that your mouth is saying. Okay, so ensure that your body language is very much appropriate when you're speaking. And I'm going to be talking a few things about body language now as part of your speech. So if the right words are accompanied by open and positive body language, then the communication can only be effective. So there are 5 S of speaking. All right. Okay. So 5 non-verbal signs of speaking. I'm going to be saying one after the other. Listen to this bit a little more carefully. Okay. Number 1. The first one is sight. So what is sight? What do I mean by sight? I mean eye contact. Okay. So if you are in a room where you have like maybe 20 people as your audience, what do? You glance at everybody. Correct? Yes. Now with technology, it gets a little tricky. So you have audience on the side box, and you have the, you know, most computers have webcam on the top of the computer. Correct? Yes. I'm sure all of you are having it that way. Or if you're using a laptop, then your webcam is that small dot on top of your laptop. Okay. So a lot of YouTube videos would suggest you that look at the webcam. Keep looking at the webcam so that you're making direct eye contact to your audience. But let me ask you this. How is it possible for me to not look at my audience? It gets tricky, right? Because when I have to look at the audience, I have to look here. And when I have to look at audience in the real sense, then I have to look at the webcam. So how do I go about doing it? Let me share with you. So see, this is what happens in the real time. So when you are talking to a person, even one-on-one communication that you're having, most often, would you be just looking like this when you're talking to that person? Continuously keep looking, keep looking, keep looking, keep looking until he gets scared, until he gets intimidated about what you're doing, right? No, we don't do this. If you consciously observe how you communicate next time, when you talk to your parent or when you talk to your friend, observe where your eyes go. So this is what we normally do. We look at the person for a few seconds, then we look elsewhere, and then we come back, correct? And normally we look at this. This is called the triangle. The triangle that we normally focus on a person's face when we are talking to them. And the ideal ratio is you look at a person 50% of the time when you're actually talking to them, and the rest 50% you keep looking away and you keep coming back to them. Eye contact is very important, but so is not over staring. All right, yes. And you look at a person more when you're listening to them speak. Okay, so this is exactly what we have to do when we use technology for eye contact too. So you look at the webcam for a few seconds, you come back to the audience, you keep looking at one or two people in the audience, and then you go back to the webcam. All right, so the triangle that you have is from the webcam to your screen, one person to another person, back to the webcam. So you keep practicing it. During when you practice it, see, I have this. I have the small chit that says, look at me. I've written, look at me here, and I put this near to my webcam. So it reminds me that I should be looking at my audience on the screen, but I should also keep going back to the webcam, because only if I look at the webcam will my audience be able to see that ma'am is looking at me, right? You understand me? Give me a thumbs up if you understand what I'm saying. Yes? Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
good. Yes. So this is what you should be doing when you're using your phone, when you're using your iPad, laptop or computer. You look at the webcam, you come back to the audience, and then you go. So now I'm looking elsewhere, I'm coming back to you again. I'm coming back to you again. Correct? Yes, it makes sense. So this is how you should be making eye contact with your audience, and sight is the number one body language sign that shows that you're a confident speaker. So definitely, and a lot of, last time when we were doing our speech competition, I was observing a lot of kids who they were looking elsewhere when they were nervous majorly. Maybe they're looking to their parents, they're looking to their father or mother who's standing. As audience, we're not able to see them, but you keep looking around. And it's a very clear sign to the audience that, oh my God, something wrong is happening to the speaker. Maybe he's scared, maybe he's nervous. That's why he's looking elsewhere. Correct? Yes. So as audience, your body language, you don't know it. You don't know you're doing such things. But as audience, it impacts us. It very much distracts us from your speech, and thereby your speech might not end up as effective as you wanted it to be. So make note of these non-verbal communications, because just as we saw, it occupies a huge chunk of your communication importance. So sight is number one. Number two, your stance. What does it mean by stance? The way you hold your body, your posture, that's very important. I'm sorry. So you could be standing up, right? I'm going to just tilt my, laptop a bit so that you can see me standing. So you could be standing and delivering the speech, or you could sit and deliver the speech. No matter what you do, and the choice is yours. Last time I remember we had a small contestant, a cute contestant called Ira, and she enacted, she spoke about a freedom fighter escaping from the ship. Yeah. And she was standing there and she showed us how, the freedom fighter ran away from the ship. So she was kind of enacting, she was kind of dramatizing the entire speech, and that was very effective as audience, right? So if you want to do that, if you kind of want to move about and maybe show things, then you can adopt a standing posture. Otherwise, if you don't want to do that, you could very well sit. Okay, and whatever things that I'm going to be telling to you is applicable for both these postures. So how are you supposed to be holding your body? All right, number one, I'm going to be showing you by standing this. Okay, so you stand with your both arms on the sides, and your legs should be comfortably placed on the floor. So you're not supposed to be doing this, neither this. Don't put more weightage on one leg and less weightage on the other. When you're standing, stand with your hip wide distance of your legs. Your legs should not be neither too close nor too far away. It should be at the right distance, and both your legs should be comfortably placed on the floor. All right. Once your foot is comfortably placed, coming to your shoulders should be very relaxed, and they should be at your sides. Lot of you who have issue, if you think that your posture is incorrect, this is one good way to check your posture. Do this. Stand against a wall. You should have a wall behind you, and you have to really stand against the wall. When you do this, the entire plank of your back should be against the wall. Okay, and the back should be against the wall. So your body and the wall should be touching in these two places, your entire shoulder back and your entire bottom. Okay, for a lot of you, your entire shoulder will not be touching the wall because you're scrunched like this, leaning forward. Okay, so when you're confidently speaking, your entire shoulder should be against the wall. And these are things that are applicable even when you sit. Even when you sit, ensure that both your legs are firmly on the ground. Why are we saying all this is important? This is important because this is how your body will be comfortable. Okay, only if your body is comfortable can you deliver a good effective speech. If your body is not comfortable, if you're maybe doing this or if you're maybe doing this, you're not comfortable, and automatically, because your body is not comfortable, your mind is not comfortable too, so you cannot deliver a very effective speech. So stance is very important. Now, what do you do with your hands? A lot of people have this nervousness about how should they be holding their hands when they have to speak. Should I be doing this? Should I be holding it like this, like this? Or should I be holding it like this? Or should I be doing this? Or should I maybe have a pencil in my hand and keep fidgeting with this, like this? Right? Yes? So this might maybe give you a little bit of support. You might feel that, okay, I have this pencil along with me to give the speech, but it's not very effective because to the audience, this is very distracting. Okay. So what are you supposed to be doing with your arms? Just leave them on the sides like this. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do this. Just leave them open on the sides so that they are free to come up when you talk. Okay, and hand gestures are very, very, very important for effective speakers, because if I do this entire session without my hands coming up to talk, it will not be very effective. If I'm going to keep doing this, it's just my mouth that's speaking and my hands don't come up at all, you're going to lose interest. You might look somewhere or get distracted. My speech will not be that impactful to you. Okay, the more I bring up my hands, and it has to come up in a very natural way, so that is going to take a lot of practice for you. Okay, so every time you speak, ensure that you don't restrict your hands. So all these classroom instructions of cross your hands is wrong, in my opinion. Children should not be compelled to do this or do this. It's very wrong, because it sets an incorrect message in our brain that we should always be like this. This is not respectful. This is simply closing yourself, and as an audience, you're going to listen to me better when I'm open. See, when I do this, It shows to you that I don't have anything hidden in my hands. Correct? So that is the psychology, that is the physiology inside our brains. When somebody is doing this, or when somebody is crossing their hands behind, you're going to immediately wonder, what is ma'am holding behind her hands? Why is she not showing up? What is happening? Right? You're a little bit uncomfortable now. The moment I bring my hands out, it shows to you that I'm open. You can trust me. I'm not here to harm you. All right. We've come from animals, and that animal instinct is somewhere inside us. All right. So use generous use of your hands and be open in your body language. That's number 2. Number 3 is your sound. We just saw 38% goes to the sound. What do I mean by this? What do I mean by sound? The tone of your voice. A lot of time, you know, uh, if I'm going to talk to you this way, listen to what I'm going to say. This is very important for all of you. I'm going to be talking to you about what your body is communicating. What is happening? Is it interesting enough to listen? No. Right? So if I talk in a tone which is like same from beginning to the end, you're going to lose interest again. So I have to keep variations. I have to go high pitch. Listen to this. This is exciting. Correct? Yes. So I add a little bit of variation to my voice, then my whole speech is more impactful. You listen to me better. You like me better. So add these few bits. Listen to me better. If I say this, if I suddenly go down, your interest is upped. Like, what is ma'am saying? Let me come closer to listen to what she's saying, right? So add these variations to make your speech more impactful. Number 4, silence. Why do you think I include silence in speech? What is the reason? Does silence and speech go together? Yes, they do. A lot of times, a lot of people, many of us are afraid of silence. Imagine this, you're going well on your speech and suddenly you don't remember something. You go silent. What happens? You fill it up with things like, oh. Yes. So these are called filler words, which means you want to fill the silence with something because you feel silence is bad. Silence is not bad. Okay. It is completely okay to go silent in front of the audience. Like I did now. I went silent for a few seconds, and what happened? You all started checking is my audio correct? What happened? Why is ma'am not saying anything? It increased your interest, right? It piqued your curiosity, correct? Yes. So make silence your friend. And for this, again, practice well. Stand in front of a mirror, and after every sentence of yours, give a pause, take a pause, take a breath, take a break, and then say out the next sentence. When you do this slowly, in the speed that in which we talk and the speed in which we have to practice, the speed in which you have to practice has to be one slower than how you normally speak. When you can do that, when you can go slow, you come across as a very effective and confident speaker. If I just rush to, you'll feel like, oh, what is happening, right? You'll feel like maybe ma'am is stressed. She is, a little nervous, which is why she's rushing up. It's not that, all right? So ensure that silence is not bad. It's okay to just go silent, collect your thoughts, and again speak. It's completely okay, all right? And for that, practice helps. So stand in front of a mirror, make mirror your best friend. It's very difficult to look at your own self and talk to your own self, okay? But practice doing that so that silence doesn't frighten you anymore. Okay, so the last S, smile. All right, definitely include smile in your speech, because the moment somebody smiles, they come across as somebody who's very relaxed and who's very confident. Only confident people will be able to smile. Correct? Yes, and at appropriate places, of course. Let me tell you or share with you a little secret. even if you are nervous on the inside, the moment you smile, it calms you, it relaxes you, because when you smile, it releases natural endorphins, which means painkillers inside your body. It has got that relaxing, calming effect on your body just to smile. So when you smile, it relaxes your facial muscles, it relaxes your neck muscles, it relaxes your shoulder. So when you smile, automatically all that nervousness goes down a little bit. All right. So I want all of you, all the contestants, to give me a big, bright smile. Come on. Let me see. Let me see. Let me see. Let me see. A big smile. Chetan sir, a big smile. Yes,
Yes, sir.
lovely. Milind sir, lovely smile. Great. And I also want all the participants to stand up from their places. Check your stance a bit. Leave your hands inside. Do that. Come on. Do this along with me. Humor me. Stand up, everybody, from your places. Leave your hands on the sides. Stand erect. Assume that you have a string that's tied from the top of your head to the ceiling. So you hold your neck straight. Okay? Everybody doing this? Yes. And go back to your chairs once again.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Very good. Very good. Now you can go back and sit. What is this happening? Somebody has crawled over the entire.
Yes, ma'am. Somebody is drawing on screen. Is it from your side or some participant?
No, I'm not even touching. I don't know what's happening.
Okay.
Someone from participant, I think he's doing that.
Okay, some naughty participant.
Participants, you are requested not to do like this. We are a bit technologically downwards, so we cannot get what exactly you are doing.
I
Yeah.
guess Aradhya, I guess. Aradhya, are you doing this?
That's okay. I'll just go back. Maybe should I close it and open it again? Will that help?
Yes, ma'am. We should try this.
Okay, hold on. Bear with me for a minute. I'm going to stop share and then I'm going to open my PPT once again.
Akhilesh sir, any inputs from your side? How to disable that? Are you there?
Fine, but still means I'm not able to catch that person actually.
Okay, fine.
But someone was also quinning. The person who is doing it, to ask him, give him some motivation. Okay, I'll give you a chocolate.
Yes, sir. Ma'am, please continue.
Yeah, yes. I'm going to again screen share. Yeah, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Answer me. What happens when you're about to give a speech? The whole prospect of, okay, now I have to give a speech. What happens? Or you are number 13 and contestant number 12 is speaking. What is happening to you?
Butterflies in the stomach.
Butterflies in the stomach. Absolutely. What else? What else do people go through?
Mouth gets dry. Throat gets
Mouth
dry.
gets dry. This is what happens, right? You get an attack of nervousness, right? So in this segment, I'm going to be sharing with you what happens and what can we do to, manage this anxiety. Okay. Are you nervous? Just like how sir said, what are your body signs? People will have anything like, hands shivering or the whole body getting very jittery or throat going dry or, sweat appearing or your hands get all clammy. Butterflies in the stomach. Some people could even feel very dizzy about the entire prospect of having to give a speech. So every body has got a different way in which it exhibits its nervousness. Okay. So the first thing that we have to do to manage our anxiety is find out how is it that our particular body behaves when it is under, nervousness, or when it is having an attack of anxiety. So my own case, my throat gets very dry, or I feel like, very restless if I have to, if I'm going to get nervous. So understand what is going to happen to you, because that's the number one way in which we can manage our anxiety better, by learning our body's way of saying, okay, so this is Ramya getting nervous. So find out how is it that you get nervous. That's point number one. Number two, acknowledge it. See, whenever you feel that, okay, this is me getting nervous, okay, this is how I get nervous, great. So, hello, nervousness, great to see you here. The moment you acknowledge it, what do? You don't allow it to spiral out of control. For a lot of people, this is what happens. The moment they get nervous, now they are nervous about the fact that they are nervous. Oh my God, I've got nervous. Oh my God, pasine aa rahe hai, butterflies ho rahe hai peet pe. That leads to more nervousness. So your nervousness is just spiraling out of control, in which it's going to definitely affect your delivery of your speech. Okay. So the first thing, you have to find out how is it that this body of mine gets nervous. Number two, acknowledge it. The moment you acknowledge it, you say that, okay, I know you're nervous. You don't have to show off. I understand that we are getting nervous here. It's fine. Okay. And the other thing that you have to understand is anxiety is good. Why do I say that? Ma'am, itne problems ho rahe hai aur aap bol rahe ho anxiety is good. How is that? It's good because think about it. Do you get anxious, or do you, feel all these signs of nervousness before you're talking to your mother, or before you are talking, chit-chatting to your friend? Does this happen? Does it happen? No. It happens only when maybe you're about to give a speech, or you have to go and talk to a stranger, or you have to give a presentation at work. Correct? So these are occasions that tell you that what I'm about to do is something that's very important to me. Or before you have to go and propose to a girl, you have butterflies in your stomach. Why? Because her yes or no is going to be important to you, isn't it? And how you're going to propose to her is important to you too. So whenever you experience nervousness, you acknowledge it, and you tell yourself that, yes, I'm getting nervous because this job interview is very important to me. How I perform in this interview is very important to me. Correct? So that way, this acknowledgement of why you're being nervous, because what I'm about to do is very important in my life. This acknowledgement and this establishment that, yes, it's important, and I'm doing only things that are important to me, will bring down that nervousness factor. That's number one. Number two, let me give you an example. So you're sitting in the audience, and people have told you, maybe Chetan sir has told you that you won the competition. Okay. And it's the last closing ceremony of the competition. So everybody is speaking, and in about just 5 minutes, Chetan sir is going to tell that you have won the competition, and you have to say a few words of, maybe thankfulness. Don't you think that you will experience the same bodily signs of what you just said, even when you're excited? Yes, even when you're excited, even when you're about to get a prize, or you know that people are going to praise you, even at the same time, you will experience the same feelings: butterflies in the stomach, sweat coming out, hands getting very shivery, your body getting jittery. So excitement and nervousness are two sides of the same coin. Okay, your body will acknowledge excitement and nervousness in the same way. So the question that we have to tell to ourselves is, I am not nervous about this competition, but I'm rather very excited about this competition. Okay, the moment you change the narrative from nervousness to excitement, everything changes. You feel like, yes, pasina aa raha hai, yes, my hands are shaking, yes, because I'm very excited to participate. I'm going to put across my speaking skills to test. Yippee, good for me. I'm doing this because this is very, very important to me. Right? So you change the entire narrative about nervousness and you now look at it in a positive way. You approach it in a positive way. When you can do this, automatically your stress levels come down and you're able to deliver better. So don't let the fear of what could happen block you from making something happen. A lot of students do this. Ma'am, I want to give a good speech, ma'am. So let me not do it today. Let me do it tomorrow. So they let go of the opportunity. Instead, just grab the opportunity with excitement and you will definitely do a good job about it. Okay, tell me this. Do you remember the speech of everyone in your group? If you belong to group B, did you or do you remember the other speeches of the other contestants in your group? Do you remember every one of those? Yes? Yes, like this? No, like this. Do you remember the speech of every one of the contestants who participated in your group? Yes? No. Correct? We don't remember. We don't remember how everybody else did as much as we remember how we did. Correct? And the one thing that most public speakers are, or people who are afraid of public speaking are worried about is, what will people think about me? What will I look like a fool if I go and stand there and don't say anything? Will I look like a fool if I maybe make a grammatical mistake here and there? What will they think about me? They are not worried. Let me share a secret with you. People are more worried about their own speeches than to worry about your speech. Correct or not? Correct? Yes?
Correct.
So,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
we have to remember that it's not about them, it's about us. And let's remember that audience is our friend, they're not our enemies. We always think of, audience versus ourselves. No, it's we along with the audience. An audience would always want you to do well and cheer for you and not mock at you. Ask yourself, is somebody, if you feel that you're watching somebody being nervous on stage, would you mock at them? Would you make fun of them?
No.
No, right? You will be sympathetic to that person. You will say, it's okay, go on to the next statement. It's fine. We'll still cheer for you. Correct? So most of the people in the audience are like us too. So they're not going to be, making a mockery of your nervousness. So let go of that fear and tell yourself that my audience is my friend. They're not my enemy. So I don't have to be afraid of them. And to share with you, 85% of people being asked, if I asked, there was a survey in which people were asked, rate your top 3 fears. And 85% said the top 3 fear, one of that is public speaking. So you're not alone in this. All right. Everybody, including great orators like Abraham Lincoln, Winston Churchill, they all had this fear of public speaking too. So go ahead with it. And remember that your audience is your ally and not your enemy. Number 2, outside versus inside. So I see this happening in most of my workshops. So I look at a person and he's giving a great speech. He comes across as a very calm, composed, collected person to me in the audience. But after giving the speech, he comes back to his seat and he comes to me and tells me, "Ma'am, I was really very nervous. I was so nervous." And I tell every one of them, it doesn't show. And as long as it doesn't show, you're good to go. Yes. All right, yes. So we are more nervous in our minds than what people can see of us. So don't be worried. Maybe inside you're feeling, I didn't do this properly. I didn't say the sentence properly. I forgot this one particular point. It's completely okay. I do this presentation and tonight I'll be thinking, I didn't say this when I was talking about the slide. But I forgot to talk about that particular example that I wanted to say. We all, if you have 100 points to say, you will only end up saying 80 or 90% of that. It's completely okay. All right. So what shows as nervousness inside or in your mind is not seen at the world. Like the world doesn't see it. So it's completely okay. Relax. All right. The next thing. Why do we get nervous? Is because we think of our speech as a performance. So, you know, if somebody is into dancing or singing, you will know that for singing, maybe you have to hit the right note, right? Or you're wrong. Or if you're dancing, then you have to do a particular step in a particular way. Only then you're correct. Otherwise, the judge will say, no, 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 this is wrong. Correct? But when it comes to speaking, it is not like that. There is no one right way of speaking and one wrong way of speaking. Of course, there are good speeches, not so good speeches, but you cannot say this is the formula of speeches. No, because each one of us are different, and each one of us, and this is the entire fact that we are unique, we are different, is what makes speaking such an interesting thing. If all of our speeches are the same way, it would cease to be interesting, isn't it? Correct? So do not look at this as a performance, but instead think of it like a conversation. You know, when you're talking to your friend, you read something very interesting about Gandhiji, and you go to your friend, you know what Bapu did? Bapu did this, 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 this. This is so inspiring. You converse with him. Does that make you nervous? Does that make you nervous conversing with a friend? No, right? So when you look at an audience, you look at it as a conversation way of speaking. So now I'm not doing a performance here. I'm not doing a session of performance. Rather, I'm conversing with maybe what, 50 odd participants. Correct? So it's just one to many conversations. So I have something that I want to say, and I want to express it to all of you. That is all I'm doing here. I'm not doing any fancy performance here. Okay, so you have to express because you want to express. You have this desire to share with all of you your thoughts and views and feelings about Gandhiji, and it's not to impress anyone. And if you do a good job of expressing, of course you're going to be impressing people, but that is not the reason why you're doing this. The reason why you're speaking is because you want to express, you want to converse, you want to tell the audience something that you have in your mind. The moment you reframe this, the moment you think of speech as a conversation, all that anxiety comes down. All right? Yes? Give me a thumbs up. Very good. Great. Next thing. Some practical tips that I could tell you, in which, you know, this is the last part of the segment. So some practical tips that could help you calm your nerves just before your speeches. All right? We all know this. Taking deep breaths. Taking deep breaths has been found to really calm you physically. So go along and take a deep breath for me now, all of you. Come on. And when you are taking a deep breath, I want you to understand that your shoulders should not go up. So it should not, it's not like, nine. So it's like your shoulder remains where it is, but you still take a deep breath and you let it out, ensuring that if you put a hand on your tummy, you will know that your tummy is moving out and coming in through your deep breaths. Place your hand on your tummy and go once again along with me and take a deep breath. You're feeling the movement in your tummy? Yes? Yes? So that is what is going to relax you, because if you are going to be giving a confident speech, the tone, the sound that comes from your body comes from your midsection. It doesn't come from your throat. Okay? If it comes from your throat, it means that you're getting nervous. It means that it's going to be very high pitched than how your voice is normally. All right? So taking a deep breath definitely calms you down. So thanks to technology, what you could do, just, you know, unshare your video just before you have to speak. take a deep few breaths, and then go ahead and give your speech. You will find that you're a lot calmer, you're a lot relaxed than how you normally are. Number 2, exercise. How could somebody do an exercise before giving a speech? You might wonder. But there are professional public speakers who do. Oh, suddenly I'm not able to see anybody. Hello? Hello, Chetan sir?
Audible.
Yes, ma'am.
Am I
You are audible. You are
Yes.
audible.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
great. Okay, great. So there are certain professional speakers who do 20 push-ups before they have to go on stage.
Hello, Aniket,
So
I
they
quit.
end up on stage all sweating. Hello?
Ma'am, all good.
Okay, great. Great. Thank you, Ashwini. So they do professional, push-ups before they go to the stage. Why? Because just before you end up on the stage or just before you have to speak, a lot of thoughts cloud your mind. What am I going to be saying? Am I going to be nervous? What are people going to think about me? Will I make a mistake? Will I ensure that I cover all the points? So these are all the thoughts that are running in your mind. So it's not possible for a person to do something as physically exerting as maybe 20 push-ups and worry about something in their mind. It's not possible, right? So that is why a lot of them, indulge in some activity in which their body is being occupied. So I personally do this. If I have to do a session just minutes before the session, I'm not sitting, but I'm actually pacing up and down. It's a good way because when I pace up and down, I can actually interact with the audience too. So I get to know, I get to maybe ask for a few names. I ask them what is it that they expect from the session beforehand. So I can even address all of those things in the session. So physically exertion is good because that way when you're walking, when you're doing something, your mind is occupied in the body movement that it doesn't have time to worry. So basically you're not very nervous. The other thing that you could do, this is something called vocal warm-up. Okay, people who are musicians might know this. So vocal warm-up is something, see, your contestant number 10, okay? So you've prepared excellently. You have a great speech at your hand. You have a great intro to start with. But you have been sitting from contestant number 1 to contestant number 9, and suddenly they say, okay, now this contestant is going to speak. Contestant number 10, Ramya Kannan. And then you go, hi, I'm Ramya Kannan. Your voice doesn't come quite all right. Yeah, it suddenly feels like it's not your voice at all. It's very hoarse, or it is sounding very raspberry. So you don't understand what's happening. What is happening is you've not warmed up your voice properly. So there are certain things that you could do, like, this is going to be very embarrassing for me, but I hope it's helpful for you. So you could do something like, this is humming. Yeah, so you could hum a little bit before you actually go ahead to speak, or you could do something like anything. You could go online and check out vocal warm-ups, and you will find a lot of suggestions. But basically the idea is to get your throat to warm up a little bit before you actually speak, so that when you speak, you're settled. Your voice doesn't feel like, okay, it's not been used for so long and suddenly you have to use it. All right, so vocal warm-up is a good way to reduce that tension. Music, you will find a lot of competitors who are into swimming or wrestling. So they practice, even when they practice listening to a particular playlist. So you will see swimmers who are like going on this particular lap listening to one song. They know that when they touch this end, and then when they have to turn back, it's time for the second song. So when you are listening to music, and it's been proven that music calms us down, it relaxes us. So when you are listening to your kind of music, then you don't have the time to think of other things, like whether how is the competitor doing, whether is he winning more than me, or would my speech be better than his, or would I not be as good as his. Okay, so music is again a good way. Why have I included Shakuntala Devi's picture here? Why? Because this is another way in which you can calm yourself. So just before you have to speak, mentally ask yourself, what is 100 minus 17? Can somebody tell me? Hello?
17. 30. 30.
Minus 17. Minus 17.
83.
83. Okay, minus 17.
100.
Okay, 100 minus 17. What is that?
83.
83 minus 17.
83.
Minus 17.
Minus 7.
66.
Okay, so the basic funda is, what are you doing now? You're mentally calculating, right? Okay, 100 minus 17, what is that? So when you are occupied with something as tough as maybe a mathematical problem, you're working on that math, your mind is occupied with something else that it doesn't have time to worry. All right, so that's the basic funda. So you find something to do with your mind just before when you have to speak. So you do not give time for your mind to think about other thoughts. So thereby you manage your nervousness better. Next is self-talk. This is something that I too do. This is where you end up, speaking to your own self. Of course, you have to ensure that there are no people around you, or they might think that you've gone mad. But this is something where you could simply say something like, I'm going to give a great speech. It's going to be good, good, good. I keep saying things like this, keep repeating the same word over and over and over again. So I'm occupied, I'm doing something, and again, the self-talk will also help in warming my voice. Okay, so when I'm doing this, I'm asserting myself, I'm telling myself, and when I'm saying it's going to be a great speech, I'm going to give a good session, it's going to be quite helpful to my audience, whatever it is. When I'm saying this, automatically these words create a visual picture to me. So I see myself, smiling after the session is done. I see myself, or I see my audience smiling and responding to my speech in a good way. So when I do a kind of self-talk this way, it creates a visual picture in my mind, and this visualization helps me become confident, and it again helps me reduce my nervousness. Okay, so you could try doing all of these things, whichever helps you. See, this is like, these are few things that people do. You try all of these things and pick whatever works for you. So for me, physical movement and self-talk helps. For you, it could be solving a math, or for somebody else, it could be, listening to music. So whatever it is, you learn to understand how is it that your body's nervousness has to be managed. Okay. What's happening? Okay. So now, have you learned how to become a great speaker? I'm not able to see the video of so many people, or I'm not able to see anybody, in fact. Are people there along with me? Okay. All right. So have you learned how to become a great speaker? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
How to become a great speaker? Tell me.
You should be able to connect with your audience.
Okay, so whatever you've learned in the session are only tips and techniques on what all you can do to give a good speech. Okay, but the only way, the only way in which you will actually become a great speaker is by speaking. No shortcuts there. How did Sachin Tendulkar end up to be such a great cricketer? How did he end up to be a great cricketer?
After playing only.
Playing cricket, right? Playing cricket. How did Sania Mirza end up to be a great tennis player? By playing tennis. How did Rahman end up to be a great music composer? By composing music. So the only way you will actually end up to be a great speaker is by speaking. No shortcuts there.
Yes.
Okay, yes, only way you will see. Maybe you watch hundreds of YouTube videos, you read a lot of public speaking books, you attend sessions like these. Is it going to end up making you a great speaker? Absolutely not. No, you will learn some techniques, you will learn some tips, you collect some ideas on how you have to do it, but the actual way in which you will do it is only by speaking. Okay, so this is where I would want to congratulate all of you once again, because Despite being nervous, despite maybe telling yourselves that, okay, I'm not a great speaker, but I'm still going to go ahead and participate. That takes courage. So courage doesn't mean we aren't afraid. Courage means that yes, we are afraid, but still we want to have a go. Yes, I used to be a kid who was so afraid of raising my hand in the class. And now I'm helping other kids who were like me to speak better. How did that happen? It happened one day when I realized that this fear of public speaking is going to just chase me through all my life. So it's not just about, a speech competition like Vande Bapu. Tomorrow you're going to end up in an interview. You have to speak. You will end up at work. You have to work, speak with your team members. You have to talk to your client. So speaking skill is something that we all need in our lives. And a good speaker, you definitely need the speaking skill to become a good leader. And we all want to be good leaders in our lives, right? Even if you have to talk to your mother-in-law, you should know the speaking skills. Correct? So speaking skills are something that are very, very essential to all of us, because human beings are social animals. We need to communicate. I need to talk to somebody to let them know that I want this, or I want this in a particular way. So speaking skills are something that is important for everybody in any industry, no matter where they are. So it doesn't mean that, I'm not a great speaker. Should I participate in this competition? Of course you should. Okay. And remember that the competition is, yes, we are going to be having judges. We are going to be rating who's going to come first, second, third. But the actual competition is not with the other contestants. The actual competition, just like in life, is going to be with your own self. I was an average speaker yesterday. Today, what am I going to be? Will I be even at least 1% better than what I was yesterday? Am I even a little less nervous than what I was yesterday? Am I a little more confident than what I was yesterday? Am I a little more excited than what I was yesterday? If yes, you are on the right track. All right. With that, I would like to conclude once again by congratulating all of you to participate in the event, because like I said, we are all afraid of things. Yet courage is having the strength to go on despite being afraid. So with that, thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm ready to take any questions if you have on public speaking or anything that could be with regards to giving a speech. Go ahead and ask me.
Ma'am, till the audience ask us the question, I would like to thank you for this amazing session. Guys, when somebody helps us, he's giving all his blood and sweat of relentless work, of relentless studies, because the knowledge ma'am poured in. If somebody wants to get that knowledge, he would have to wait for at least 10 to 15 hours in a day. He would have to read 3 to 5 books. Like I have personally gone through many of books to gather this knowledge, this much knowledge regarding the stance. Ma'am, you correctly narrated us about what should be the tone, how should we speak, and I think almost all of our participants will be getting much more benefits from this session. Ma'am, today in this meeting, we had maximum till 50 participants, and on Facebook Live, there are almost more than 1,000 people who are watching this lecture of yours. So on behalf of all of them, I thank you. And this is one of the eye-opener session. And each and every time we think that our speakers are raising the bar higher. Aniket in last session was excellent, and this session is also excellent session. Friends, if you have any question, then we are open for the questions. You can ask the question, unmute yourself and ask the question. Any questions from participant side? कोणाला काही प्रश्न असतील तर ते विचारू शकता.
Sir, we have to give speech on what Gandhiji would say on aparigraha, or what Gandhiji doing to follow people aparigraha.
First option is correct. Actually, what we think if you have gone through rule books, initial six are the topics, and aparigraha is his core value. So you can formulate your speech depending upon word aparigraha. You can use anything, no problem with that.
Sir, means what Gandhi would be saying on a parigraha.
Yes, correct.
Sir, what is the time limit of speech?
3 minutes.
I have a problem of speaking very fast. What I do?
You have to consciously, thank you for the excellent question. So you have to, I had this problem too. I used to rush up, and my students used to say, ma'am, go slow, go slow, go slow. So what you could do, you could practice speaking slow when you're doing your practice sessions, and ensure that you record the entire, practice speech. You record it, you replay it, and you watch it. And every time after you finish a sentence in your speech card or in your in your speech, you just put a line, so that you know that when you come to the line you have to stop. Okay, so every full stop that you see, you have to stop for a few seconds and then go to the next line. The more you keep doing this, the more you will realize that your pace of speech will come down, and you will start speaking in a range that is understandable to the audience.
Ma'am, I have a problem of every time I'm talking or I'm reading something, I'll be like
Right. So this is what I said as filler words, correct? Again, you have to be more conscious. The first step is you've accepted that, yes, you've realized that you're doing this. A lot of, us are not even aware that we're using such filler words until somebody else points us to this. Again, I would say, go ahead and record your speech so that you know that you're using these filler words. And you also try and consciously seek out, when is it that you're using these filler words? Does this happen when you suddenly don't understand what is it that you have to say next? Suddenly you're saying sentence A, you don't remember sentence B, and then in between you use if that is the case, then start using silence, replace silence wherever you're using filler words. Okay, and wherever you're using silence, you will consciously start to acknowledge that, okay, I'm silent, I'm not using a filler word, and then you move on to the next sentence. Okay, and this is going to happen with practice. Like today, if you are somebody who's using us and who's, tomorrow you're not going to stop using them. The number of times that you're using filler words will go down, and then over time you will reach a place where absolutely not using filler words. Did that help?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, for the benefit of the participants, we are now starting. We want to educate you about how to upload video on Facebook. Akhilesh sir, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Yes,
Okay.
I'm here.
Yes, kindly start the presentation and educate us how to upload video on Facebook.
Yeah, just I'm sharing my screen. Wait
Yeah.
for a second.
अखिलेश सर तुमचा आवाज नाही येत आहे.
Wait. I'll turn it on. Okay, I have shared one screen. Is that visible to everyone?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, good.
Yes,
Good. Okay, so this particular video is all about how to upload video, a short video, a long video, okay, whatever type of video that you want to upload on a Facebook, okay. So just length of 3 minutes, okay, just try to understand how to upload that video on a Facebook, okay.
Hmm. Oh. Okay, so I hope the things are clear to you people. Very simple. You just have to go to your Facebook page. Okay, with respect to that, you will get some option like create my album or create my video gallery. So in that, you just have to click and upload your video. Okay, and while uploading video, you can put a frame on that. Means suppose you want to put your photograph, passport photograph, or the name of the speech contest. Okay, so whatever the thing that you want to put as a frame for that particular video, that you can do. Okay, so very easy task. Okay, nothing is rocket science there, so anyone can do that. Okay, even a 4-year 6-year kid can also do that. Okay,
So if you have any doubt, difficulty regarding uploading videos on a Facebook page, okay, so please let us know.
Okay, thank you, Akhilesh sir, for your guidance. If any participant is having any difficulty regarding uploading videos, you are free to contact us so that we can guide you. Some of the participants who are not using Facebook, no problems with that. You can shoot your video and send a personal WhatsApp to me. It should include your name so that we can post it on the Vande Bapu page. The time limit for uploading video will be 12 p.m. till the 15th. Means on 16th you won't be able to post any videos. You can post videos on today also, you can post tomorrow also, you can post till the 15th night. So with this, any doubts, if there are any doubts, we are free to answer them. Any doubts from participants?
Sir, if we are unable to upload video, so we can upload it on WhatsApp, personal WhatsApp of you.
No, it will be better if you upload on the Facebook page. We are giving permissions for participants so that they can upload on the Facebook page. If it is not possible to you, then only we will get it on the WhatsApp and we will upload from our end. No problem with that. Okay, participants, we are closing this session. For the Thanksgiving and for the picture, I will invite Akhilesh sir. We are requesting you to kindly switch on your videos so that we can take a beautiful picture with you. All the participants, please switch on your videos. I have given the permission to unmute yourself and to for your video participation also. Akhilesh, can you take a picture of all of us?
Yeah, sure. Everyone should turn on your videos, please. I request all of you. Please turn on your videos. Good. All participants are coming. Okay. And one more thing I need, as Ramya ma'am said, put a big smile on your face. Yeah, 5 more. I need 5 participants more. Swara, Param, Viji, Unnati, please turn on your videos. Shri Krishna. Good. Okay, so countdown begins for 3. Okay, so I'm clicking the snapshot. Okay, 3, 2, 1, smile. Yeah. Thank you everyone.
Okay, friends, see you then. If any doubts and questions, you are free to ask me on my personal WhatsApp. With this, I thank Ramya ma'am for today's excellent session, and I thank you all the participants for your gracious presence. Thank you. See you.